Hello everyone, welcome to Yellow Wall India podcast. Today we have a very special guest and we require a very special guest right now after the results which I have gone through. We have a lot to discuss. Today we have three games which happened in a quick transition and today we have Josh with us all the way from Canada. Those of you who may not know, which I think are very few, who follow Dortmund closely, he runs his YouTube channel called JJD TV. He's pretty good with the content and interaction. You can always check out his YouTube channel. And yeah, Josh, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, thank you, my friend. Yeah, like was said, my name is Josh, and a buddy and I created a YouTube channel only a few months ago. That's called JJD TV, and we are also now recently the official international caster for Borussia Dortmund's Twitch account, where we do some of our watch-alongs as well. So it's been quite a roller coaster of emotions for the last 5 months since we started this channel, but I've followed Dortmund as long as I can remember, and I just live in Canada where there's not a lot of people who really follow football. So I just thought I'd kind of find my own outlet and created this channel and seen a lot of success so far. I'm really excited to be here with you today and talk about a few games.
Yeah, we are happy to have you. We are happy to host you as second episode of the new year 2021. Talking about 2021, we all thought that maybe 2021 would be different than 2020 for Dortmund. But things started on a good note in 2020 when it started under the new coach, but then it started to again derail. Had three games. One was against Mainz and then against Bayern and now yesterday's game against Mönchengladbach. So results which we didn't expect, Josh. What are your initial say or observations about the all three games?
Well, I thought coming back from the break, the very shortened Bundesliga break this year, it was going to be a very, very crucial moment for 𝐿𝐵𝐻𝐶, mainly because he actually had a little bit of time to kind of figure out his own tactics, see what he wanted to do with the team. And then, like you said, we came off to a very positive start with a Wolfsburg win and then a Leipzig win, which are 6 massive points. And it looked like we kind of turned a corner. And as we tend to do with Dortmund, when we seem to turn a corner, we go into the team that was bottom of the table in Mainz with a very disappointing draw, followed by two losses against two teams that are competing with us for top four. I think every game was a winnable game for us, especially at some point in the game, but we kind of found a way to bite ourselves in the butt and turned out to take 1 point from 3 games. And as the time of recording right now, we are sitting in 8th place, which is obviously not what we want.
Definitely not what we want. I think so. The game, talking about the first game which happens against Mainz, 7 points out of 15 home points which we could gather after the Mainz game. Uh, Home is something which we as Dortmund fans have always been proud of, the fortress which we have always called it. What do you think, like overall, as you have also talked about the teams against which we shouldn't be ideally dropping points, we have been doing that. So, what is happening in Dortmund which is causing this? What do you feel about that?
I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that we're missing our fans, and clearly having been one of the best stadiums in the world, one of the best fan bases in the world, it is a little bit different. I personally don't know exactly what it is. I think it could have something to do with that, but for me, it's just a lack of which seems to be a motivation to get started. We've had very, very slow starts to games. We don't take chances in the first half. We kind of seem very lackluster, and then something will happen where we get woken back up, and it's just kind of unacceptable for us right now because we need to get into the game right off the start. We need to show that we are a dominant team. We can't be trailing against Mainz playing the catch-up game, and it's just frustrating. I don't know if that has anything to do with the fans not being there, if it has something to do with the players' personnel, but something's just not clicking at the start of these games, and we constantly keep digging a hole for ourselves, and it's making us hard to take 3 points.
I completely agree with you. And it's something which is frustrating to see happening this season. Yes, COVID is a situation, but I think so with the quality which we have, we expect Dortmund to dominate these games. And it's been a trend, Josh. If you remember from last few seasons, earlier under Favre as well, we suddenly started dropping points against the teams which were in the middle or bottom of the table. So, what do you think? Like, is there something which Dortmund has to work upon for this?
Well, and you make a good point as we saw too. I mean, the Wolfsburg and the Leipzig games were perfect examples of going into top teams in the Bundesliga, grabbing 3 points, playing very well. And I don't know if it's just overconfidence, if it's just a lackluster approach. But like you said, we have dropped a lot of points against teams that are towards the bottom of the table. We got our got handed a game when we lost 5-1 to Stuttgart, and then just that Mainz game in itself, being at home against a team that's sitting bottom of the table, is it's just it can't happen if we want to compete for a top four, even as well as the title. And it's hard to pinpoint exactly what needs to be done. I think a lot of people like saying it's the mentality. I don't like using that word mentality. Everyone says that. A lot of people have been reaching out to me and saying that Dortmund have a weak mentality. These are professional athletes. They don't have a weak mentality. They've went through obviously a ton of different things to get to where they need to get today. I just think it's something to do with the team. And I don't, like I said, I don't believe it's mentality. I think that's a very harsh word, but I think it's the approach to the game that they think because of the talent we have up front, they can kind of approach it in a more of a relaxed way. And then they get hit on a counterattack, and one opportunity, the other teams usually take it. And now we kind of go into a panic mode, and it's just can be frustrating to see from time to time, and it just keeps seeing us dropping points.
Yeah, I agree with you. There is something which is lacking, and I also feel that it's not the mentality thing. I think so. We have good players who have strong mentality in the field, and we see that Dortmund. I mean, who would like to lose points or drop points? So I think the mentality thing is out, and there is something which is really missing in Dortmund when it comes to these games. Something which is now slowly trending towards the teams which are around us or above us. Talking about the Mönchengladbach game and Bayer Leverkusen game, I think so. Those results, I think, especially the Mönchengladbach game, I think so. I personally wasn't expecting that bad of the result. Like, I thought that maybe there is a chance Dortmund may lose, but losing like this really hurts. What do you feel about that?
Oh, yeah, like honestly, out of the Mainz game and the Bayer game and the Gladbach game, the one that stung me the most was the Gladbach game because, like you said, I mean, we started off, in my opinion, very poorly. Like we have many times this season, we trailed relatively early, and then we out of nowhere got a spark. Our attack looked very beautiful looking interchangeable football where we led to 2 goals by Holland, and then it kind of looked like we turned a corner. But when you concede 4 set piece goals, and unfortunately for Berkey, I don't want to not address the elephant in the room. He had a very poor game, and when your defense and your set piece defending as well as your goaltender aren't anywhere near where they need to be, it's going to be very challenging, especially against a team like Gladbach, to walk away with 3 points. And honestly, rightfully so, we deserve to lose that game, and we did pretty handily.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was actually coming to the set piece defending. I think so. I felt that Dortmund had started to defend pretty good under Terzic, but again yesterday we saw same thing happening. Even Marco Reus also commented that these are the things which shouldn't be happening again and again. So set piece is something which can be addressed pretty comfortably. It doesn't require big changes. But what do you feel? Why is this same thing happening again? The soft goals which we are conceding through set piece.
Well, a lot of people like to blame the defenders, and I mean, when you think of defending, but I mean, set piece defending requires an entire team. You need to find your man, you need to track your man, and you need to make sure that you clear anything out. But I mean, a lot of it could be to do, I think, with the defending, mainly because our defenders have had a ton of minutes this season. Right now, we have 2 currently fit center backs, which means that Kanji and Hummels have to play almost every game. It's showing they're making mental mistakes. They don't look very sharp right now, as well as when it comes to set piece defending, you also need a very commanding goalie where Berkey's got kind of caught flat-footed on a few occasions where he could have potentially came and challenged the ball. And when all these things don't really go your way, it leads to goals, and frankly, very easy looking goals from the Gladbach perspective.
Yeah, definitely. I feel that those goals were pretty easy and shouldn't have really been allowed that easily. Because I think so many of the teams in Bundesliga know that Dortmund is a big team, and set pieces are something which will be a big opportunity for all those teams to defend or to score. I think so. This time around, Dortmund has been pretty soft and are leaking goals when it comes to set pieces. And talking about the games, do you feel that there is a transition overall, which I felt that there is a transition in the approach with the teams which are coming to Dortmund? They are now trying to be more aggressive. Maybe fans are not there, so there is a level field there. But do you feel now that teams have changed their approach when they play Dortmund now?
Well, watching the Bayer game, I thought that game was very stretched. I thought that there was a lot of opportunities at both ends. Leverkusen and Dortmund tend to have very high scoring games, anyways. So I mean, I think a lot of teams are now looking at our defense and think that it can be vulnerable. I think they want to stretch it out. Leverkusen have very fast wingers, and we just don't have the pace as our center backs right now. We don't really have any other center backs to be able to switch into a 3-4-3 to try to put another body back there to compete with these speedy wingers. And all in all, the approach just wasn't right for that Leverkusen game. And these teams are going in there with, I think, real confidence that they can have a real run at this back line and create a little havoc. And they've definitely been doing that.
Yeah, it's a good point. Actually, I was coming to this backline of ours, which has been an issue now. Do you feel that we need a fullback? Like in last two games or few games, Rafael Guerrero hasn't been there up to the mark when it comes to defending. He doesn't track back so quickly. But in attack, he's always there. He's a pretty good attacker. But do you feel we need a fullback in this? Should be addressed quickly?
I don't believe we need a fullback, and I don't think the board would probably put any money into the fullback position, mainly because on the left we have Guerrero, and of course Schultz is still there, and then on the right we have Meunier, Marai, and Paslak. Paslak can also play out on the left if need be. If I was to address anything in this transfer window, which I don't think will, but if we have any type of money, I would try to make a strategic loan signing for a center back. I think only having two fit center backs right now, and considering that Zagadou has had injury problems for a while now, it's going to be hard to give any one of those players rests. I don't think that Chan or Piszczek can slide into a 4-2-3-1 formation as one of the center backs and play it over really well. So I just think we need a fresh body, preferably a relatively fast center back who could maybe complement the outside of Guerrero or potentially Hummels. But that's the one position I would look at. And obviously, a loan signing means that it's a little stopgap, and hopefully don't have to invest too much in that.
Yeah, I agree. A loan signing would be good, and I also feel that there are wing backs, full backs which are there. Even if Hazard gets back from injury, he can also be used pretty nicely when it comes to defending on the wings. So that's something which should be addressed. And yes, centre back is a requirement. I think so. Dortmund missed a trick by letting the having a very bleak CB lineup when it comes to this season. I think so they knew Zagadou was injured before the season started, and they didn't sign or didn't have anyone to back both Akanji and Hummels there. So I think that they've missed a trick when it comes to being a challenger for the title. You need defenders who are there to support. So yeah, hopefully Dortmund recognize has I think so recognized, and hopefully it gets addressed there. Talking about injuries, it's been happening a lot. So what do you feel, Josh? Like, is there something which is a trend now, or something that Dortmund seriously has to look up to? That is there a change required in their team when it comes to medical team? Because even in last few years it has happened that Dortmund suffers a lot of injuries. Players who come back from injury again get injured, and this time also it happened with Zagadou and Hazard. Do you feel it's something which should be looked upon by club?
I don't want to touch too much on the medical staff at Dortmund. I don't know the inside or what exactly they're doing. I'm assuming that they're trained professionals. They know exactly what there is to do. I will touch on the fact that it does seem to be a trend with Dortmund when players come back from injury that they get put into the lineup right away. You see Guerrero and Holland and Hummels, for example, are three three important players on this team that when they've been injured, they've pretty much as soon as they're fit, go immediately back in the team instead of having that bench role for maybe a couple of games and working their way up. I'm not a professional at all. I can't really touch on what's the right or wrong thing to do. The only thing that they're going to have to be careful of is with this COVID compact schedule. There's a lot of minutes, a lot of games coming up. And when we only have really one striker that we trust to start a game, as well as we only have two center backs and really one left back that we trust to start a game, it leaves a lot of players vulnerable to potential injuries. And I mean, unless we start rotating a little bit more, I'm not sure a way that they were going to make it through the entirety of the season.
I agree with you. I think so. It's something which has to be addressed, and yes, I think so. They are professional and would be doing a good job. But yeah, hopefully this gets addressed, and we get the team which is fit. And full squad is always a good asset to have when you are going for the full throttle especially at the end of the season, at the latter end of the season. Talking about yesterday's game, which is fresh in our mind against Mönchengladbach, which happened. There were some issues. I think so. People have started again the Burki gang who really bashes him every time when there is a bad game. It has come out full swinging, criticizing him. And right, I think so to an extent it is fair, but yeah, what do you feel about the criticism with Burki has got recently and also throughout the season in last 2 years?
Well, our fan base does like to react very very passionately after specific performances by specific players. I've always been under the assumption that Berkey is an inconsistent goalie. I don't want to get too much into it because I mean I don't think that our entirety problems stem from the back. I think Berkey's been relatively well for the past few seasons, but as soon as we signed him, I mean he's given up his trademark goal in my opinion, which is near side goals. He gets caught a lot with his footing, and I haven't really addressed the issue in a while because I've been relatively satisfied with the performances. Berkey can be a wild card. He can have his games where he comes up with a massive amount of saves, but he can also have games like the Leverkusen in the Gladbach game. And I brought it up when we were doing the watch along with the two goals he let in at Leverkusen, which I thought he got his footing off. I thought both of the goals looked relatively centered of the net, and I was just asking around for people who've maybe played goalie or have that more intellect than I do when it comes to goaltending, and a lot of them did come back to me and said yes, that his footing was off. He misjudged both of the goals, and it obviously came in and bit us in the butt. And then of course the Gladbach performance, which was unfortunately for him, one of his worst I've seen in a long time. I I don't, again, it's the goaltending, the fullbacks. I don't think these are going to be positions that Dortmund are going to address anytime soon because of the financials. I think there's more positions that are going to require a little bit of help, like the center back, potentially a winger, even a backup striker. But for the time being, I'm hoping just Berkey can come back to his best. Like I said, he can be that wild card, and hopefully he can get a little bit of confidence. And I think he's got belief in himself that he can turn his game around.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. It's an irony if you ask me, George, that when it comes to Burki, his performances, good performances, has come when Dortmund has lost or has drew games, but people don't give him that much appreciation at that time. But ironically, his worst performance also comes when club has lost, and most of the time he gets into the limelight and gets bashed pretty bad. Like yesterday, yes, it there were some issues, but I think the fans went crazy and went after him for this, and hopefully fans do realize that he has done a lot of work and he was at the beginning at the top of clean sheet holders when it came to performance. So yeah, let's hope he is consistent with his performance. Just a few things which I wanted to ask you was that where do you think Dortmund is going to be now? Like we are at eighth right now. What do you feel about the season and about the UCL game and the Pokal game which is coming?
Well, I had a lot to think about. I was when we were over on Dortmund's Twitch yesterday streaming the watch along. I was trying my very best not to act frustrated because I was representing Dortmund on their channel. But when you saw a performance like the Gladbach game, it's obviously
Yeah.
can be very frustrating. But where I think that we're at right now is that we need to hopefully pull it together and get a run of results here, because due to this COVID schedule, not finishing in top four could be catastrophic to this club. I think we have too much talent, too much ability to not be able to go for a Champions League spot. So, I mean, knowing that we fired our manager mid-season, it's going to already stem to the fact that it's not supposed to be a great season. Not every manager who gets sacked gets replaced and goes on to win a treble. That's very, very rare. I think the best that we can hope for this season is a top four finish. In my opinion, finishing in fourth place is more important than winning the DFPL Cup. It's more important than having a deep Champions League position, because it sets your next manager up for success. It's what Peter Stoger did. All he had to do was get into a top four finish a few years ago. He got that. It set up Fabra for a decent restart. And if we don't get that top four, it's going to be very detrimental to this club. So, I mean, that's our number one goal for me, is just making sure we get a Champions League spot. And then obviously I would love to see a cup run in the DFB Cup, especially with Bayern not being in there. That'd be an amazing cup to win. I'm a big fan of it, so I really hope that we can have some type of deep run, and I think that we are expected to have a deep run. And then of course in the Champions League, I'd like to see us have a decent little run as well, maybe quarters, semis. If we get a kind draw, the Sevilla game will be very, very tough as well, and hopefully when we go there, we approach it right and can get a positive result.
Yeah, I think so. Everything is possible when it comes to the games. It's on the day how team is feeling, and I think the Cup DFB Pokal is something which Dortmund really has a big opportunity now. And Sevilla game would be interesting to see how Dortmund performs, and hopefully it doesn't happen that we are able to go beyond, or we aren't able to proceed ahead. That would be a big bummer if it happens. So yes, I think so. I'll touch upon few things. I'll put you on spot on this one. Like, if you like seeing the games, what do you think? What is Dortmund missing right now when you see the performances?
That's a tough question, because it's been, each game's been a little bit different. We've had games where we've dominated and we haven't been able to put the ball in the back of the net, like the Mainz game. We had opportunities to win that, and it's just the finishing wasn't quite there. And then, in my opinion, the Gladbach game, our attack looked relatively well. I think Brandt's fighting his way back into the starting 11. Holland, obviously, excellent finishes. Sancho looks kind of like his old self. I mean, you have to say with this team, the problems are coming from the back. We leak too many goals. Um, I think pressing was a bit of an issue for us. I mean, it's obviously the more you press, the more you can potentially win the ball back up. Both of the goals we scored in the Gladbach game were led because of 𝐉𝐸 and Bellingham pressing the ball up high, winning it back, leading to more chances. So I think from the midfield, they just need to keep that up. Definitely pressing helps the way that we like to play football, but the back as well. And like I said, whether it's just the players are out of form, or whether it's just that they're exhausted because of the amount of minutes that they've been piling up on those legs, something needs to change at the back there. And hopefully maybe it's a new body, as I mentioned, a center back, or maybe a change in shape. But it's got to be something. Otherwise, our defense is going to keep leading us to dropping points.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with you. This is something which has to be addressed pretty quickly by Dortmund. I think so. They have taken a bold move, going again ahead with the team which they have, and saying that we will manage it together. So it is something which is very interesting to see how Dortmund proceeds with this and what solution they comes up with. So yes, I think so. There is one fan question which is there. It is about Witzel's injury, which happened long time back. But do you feel the effect is there? It has been asked by Nand Kishore. Do you feel that effect is still there in the team?
I'm a big fan of Witzel. I mean, he's done some amazing things since he came to Dortmund, but it didn't seem like he was going to be at one point one of the first names on the team sheet. And then it kind of seemed like towards the end, before he got that injury, he was able to battle his way back in, and he was looking kind of like he did in the first season we signed him. So I think the timing of the Witzel injury sucked, honestly, to be perfectly frank. But I
Yeah.
do believe that Witzel wasn't one of our starting center defensive mids. I think he preferred Jude, Delaney, even potentially Chan over Witzel. But I thought with the performances and the opportunities that Witzel took towards the end before he got the injury, he brought something a little bit different, a little more experience, leadership to that midfield. So it did suck losing him. There's no doubt about it, but I think we have enough bodies in that midfielder position that we should be able to make up for it. Delaney, Chan, Bellingham, and Dahoud. It's four solid players, four different kind of players who can bring something to that midfield. It's just in my opinion, being able to find out what the preferred duo is going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have good number in midfield. And talking about Dawood, it's something which is a big conspiracy. People are asking where he is right now. He practices with the team but doesn't get a chance. What's happening there?
Well, to be honest, at the beginning of the season, I didn't think that Dahoud would have been here this season. I didn't think he was ever really a preferred choice when he came to this club from Gladbach. I thought he was going to be sold going into this season because with the signing of Bellingham, I just thought it was the end for Dahoud. Out of nowhere, Dahoud had a run of games. I think he started 4, played 5 games, and I thought he looked very impressive. And I was completely turned around my opinion on him. I thought him and Delaney made a good combination. I thought Delaney would obviously play more of a 6. Dahoud could have that potential link up with the front 4. And then out of absolutely nowhere, after which in my opinion were a few good performances from him, he got yanked from the team and has not been back. He's a lot of the times didn't even make the traveling squad. He's now been on the bench the last couple of games, but did not make an appearance. It's literally the mystery of Dahoud, and I don't really have much of a saying on it. I would love to see him come back in because I liked what I saw from him, but I don't know. There's no evidence that shows he's going to break into the starting 11 anytime soon.
Yeah, it's something which is pretty interesting to see what's happening with him. He's going pretty good and he's not getting chance. Don't know why. So I'll just end the podcast with putting you on spot. We have a relatively good games coming, which should be easy, but for Dortmund, nothing is easy. Where do you see Dortmund after end of February?
Well, I mean, if there's ever a time for a reaction, it has to be after that Gladbach game. I mean, losing the 𝐉𝐸𝐬𝐮 game, I mean, it was a 2-1 game. There was a lot of back-to-back chances, and it just didn't happen to go our way. Brandt had a good opportunity to make it 2-1 for us, which could have obviously changed that game around. Same with the Mainz game. It was a game where Royce obviously missed a penalty. Those are 2 games that could have went our way. But with this Gladbach one, it was the ugliest of the 3 results. And it has to be a wake-up call. And not only because of the performance, but what it means for the table. Like I said, as time of recording, we've fallen down to 8th place. That is outside even our Europa League spot right now. So the players are professionals. They know what this long stretch is going to mean. If there's any time that this team needs to have a reaction, it is in our next game, especially because it's a team we've already lost to this season. And I'm hoping that 𝐕𝐸𝐶 can figure a way to tighten up at the back. Our offense know what it means and can put the ball in back net and hopefully get a positive result. So I'm hoping and praying by the end of February we can fight ourselves back up into a 5th or 4th position.
It's something which I also want, and every Dortmund fan would be looking forward to a good reaction and able to reach the situation or position which we all love Dortmund to see at. With this, I think so. We have come to the end of the episode. I thank Josh for coming and taking out the time and discussing Dortmund's performance, especially during this time, which has been tough. And for everyone, every fan who is listening to it, do check out Josh's YouTube channel. It's pretty good, it's pretty interesting. We'll put the link in our description. You can definitely check it out. And since the pandemic is also not over, so I request everyone to take care of themselves and keep supporting. Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Not a problem, my friend. Thank you so much for having me on. It was an absolute pleasure, and let's hope the boys can turn around and compete back for a top 4 place.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.